Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video in the Death Of series. Today, we are taking a look at the death of Dreamworld. Just over a year ago, the internet was captivated by one of the most bizarre events in gaming history. A game that promised to be every genre, every art style, and all of that while supporting millions of players concurrently on one single server. This is a tale of ex-girlfriends, illegitimate funding, child moderators, and massive amount of incompetence. So sit back, grab yourself a beverage, and strap yourself in for this absolute wild ride through the history of Dreamworld. My part of this story started almost the same day as the Kickstarter for this game did. I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw an ad for a game called Dreamworld. This advertisement was a picture of the Unreal Engine default mannequin surrounded by a horde of assets, all of which, as a game developer myself, I know are readily available on the Unreal Engine marketplace. I've never actually used these assets in a game, but I have used them as placeholders and for prototyping new systems. They make lovely placeholders until you finally do end up replacing these assets. Out of morbid curiosity, I googled Dreamworld as I wanted to see this circus unfold in real time. And to my surprise, there was not a single video covering the topic of Dreamworld, which is incredibly strange considering how fast media picks up on these projects nowadays. After this, I decided to look at the Kickstarter page and look more into it to see if I was missing anything, and thus the rabbit hole opened up. Firstly, I was greeted with their hilarious Kickstarter video, their trailer. Little did I know that this would unfold to be one of the biggest treasure troves of memes that was ever to be found.
Hello, and welcome to Dreamworld. Dreamworld is the massive, creative, open-world sandbox where millions of people can play, adventure, and create together.
From the highest mountains with waist-high snow, to tundra, to desert, to a Candyland biome, to a pirate bay with jungle surrounding it that's dense enough to get lost in. You'll see it all. The vision is that Dreamworld is the end game. It's every genre, every game, every style, all wrapped into one. But first, a little bit of background on why Dreamworld and why now.
In March 2020, I was living with my fiance in New York City. And my fiance left me soon after. So, I moved back in with my parents in California and began turning my life around. My best friend, Gary, a workaholic programmer, started calling me every day to try and cheer me up.
Hi, I'm Garrison.
Before we continue, I want to give a massive shout out and thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Brilliant. Brilliant is an online learning platform. The best way to learn anything is by doing it yourself. Learn interactively with Brilliant's fun, hands-on lessons in maths, science, and computer science. Interactive learning helps you learn 6 times faster than watching lecture videos. Nobody likes doing that. I've been using Brilliant over the last month every morning for 15 minutes as part of my morning routine, brushing up on some of the skills most important to me right now. They're quick, effective, and rewarding. My 2 recent courses that I'd highly recommend are Introduction to Neural Networks and Algorithm Fundamentals. Both of these are super important to my work right now, and with the industry constantly using new algorithms, this has been a very easy way to keep up to date on them. Join the millions of people who are already on Brilliant with a special offer just for my viewers. Head to the link in the description or the pinned comment to get started with Brilliant's interactive lessons. The first 200 viewers will also get 20% off annual membership. So, what are you waiting for? Check out Brilliant using my link in the description or pinned comment, and again, a massive thank you to Brilliant for sponsoring today's video. Between the Kickstarter somehow getting the Projects We Love badge from Kickstarter themselves, and the 2 lovely chaps, Zach and Garrison, the saviour of the MMO genre, both sitting there, one of them smiling like a child high on life, uncontrollably, and the other one sat there like an old person full of wind, really trying to force a grin. Beyond that, we get the backstory of how the inception of Dreamworld was started. And if this video wasn't funny and awkward enough up until this point, brace yourselves, because this is where the start of the ex-girlfriend anime arc begins.
I lost my job as a waiter, and this opportunity rescinded their offer. And my fiance left me soon after.
There's something really uncomfortable about this clip. Everyone thought that this was some sort of fake sob story to pull at the heartstrings of the viewers. But little did we know that there was a heroic and hilarious story about to unfold from the girlfriend anime arc. We'll definitely be coming back to this later in the video. Moving along in this video of the Kickstarter, we have some of the wildest claims ever made of what this game was going to be. As mentioned earlier, every game, every art style, millions, yes, millions of players on a single server, able to build wherever they want. Interact with everyone, all in one persistent world. Now, while this may sound initially very cool to anyone not in the know with game dev, when you look at this claim for what it actually is, they're claiming to have solved the holy grail of MMO networking. To the point that if this was true, and they had actually solved this, they would have been way better off selling this technology rather than trying to make a shoddy game out of this technology. Now, for the surprising, or not so surprising part of this video, both Zach and Garrison had claimed to have 7 years of game development expertise under their belt. As a surprise to absolutely nobody, it turned out that neither of them have ever made a game in their lives. Who saw that one coming? Definitely not me. Now, you may be wondering where the confirmation of this has come from, that they have no dev experience, because they have adamantly insisted that both of them do have this experience, and they still do to this day. Once again, this ties back to the ex-girlfriend anime arc, so sit tight for that gorgeous shit show. At this point, we're noticing a lot of issues, lies upon lies, bold claims with no effort to prove them, and with that, I fully went down the rabbit hole. I saw nobody else covering this, so I decided to become the martyr that nobody wanted, yet we all received. The Kickstarter was asking for a small price of $10,000 to make a full MMO, a drop in the bucket when it comes to the cost of building an MMO. For me, this was already a scam, and I didn't think anybody needed any more proof than this, but I wanted to go the extra mile in fully debunking this mess. This was the day that I started my YouTube channel, with the intent of posting a single video, my first video and my last video, debunking this, and then calling it good. So with my mission in mind, on the 22nd of March 2021, I uploaded my first and intended last video. In this video, I found every single asset pack that they had used on the Unreal Engine marketplace and displayed them side by side, including their famous Pirate Island scene from their trailer.
To a Candyland biome, to a pirate bay with jungle surrounding it that's dense enough to get lost in.
The reason the Pirate Island scene attracted so much attention in this whole fiasco is because it was on the Unreal Engine marketplace and quite literally called Pirate Island. And the cherry on top, they quite literally used the demo video that came with the Pirate Island asset pack as their trailer, or as a good portion of their trailer. Quite literally using somebody else's advertising material to sell their game that just uses this advertised material. They had claimed this to be a zone that they had developed, but they were in fact just using somebody else's pre-rendered trailer. But this isn't even the low point. This trailer showcases Nintendog's deformable snow, the Unreal Engine mannequin performing push-ups and handstands. Something to point out here that should have been a major red flag from day one is that the snow plugin that they were showcasing is not compatible with the voxel terrain plugin that they were claiming the entire world was going to be made of. You can't have the two things together, they are not compatible. This was a bit strange. So far, the dynamic duo are off to such a good start that this project is raising more flags than a Turkish embassy. After uploading this first video, this video blew up to 47k views on my first ever video. This spawned a large number of people investigating this utterly bizarre project. After a further week of researching this project in my spare time, I fell down the rabbit hole, truly, head first this time. Also at this point, my video had apparently stirred up such a storm that Kickstarter had removed the Projects We Love badge from the Dreamworld project. And weirdly, a bit of new information had appeared on the Kickstarter page. We are a Y Combinator company. Now, a bit of information for you who don't know who or what Y Combinator is. They are essentially an investment company for startups, also known as a startup accelerator. It was at this point that 2 anonymous people from Y Combinator had contacted me and shared proof that they are who they said they are. After this, they went on to show me the cap table, or the investment table, which showed a staggering $3 million had been invested in Dreamworld from random companies affiliated with Y Combinator. This raised more questions than it had answered. Why start a Kickstarter for $10,000 if you've just secured $3 million? And why would Y Combinator invest in such a pile of junk? Not to mention that Y Combinator don't even invest in games. This is the first instance of Y Combinator investing in such a game. Not to mention that they managed to get past the round 1 seed funding demo day with this pile of junk. Looking into these individuals further revealed a lot of fishy things in their past. Garrison had apparently worked for Facebook, Apple and Google, and while this does seem to be true, he doesn't seem to have worked there for more than a matter of months, which leads me to believe that there was something very fishy about this entire arrangement. And this was true. After reaching out to my new contacts at Y Combinator, they revealed to me that Garrison did in fact have an uncle working very high up at Google, named John Bellack. This was apparently the sole reason this project was ever able to get past the red tape. His uncle used his contacts and his knowledge of the company to help boost this project up to the red line and far past it, getting this project that had absolutely no chance of success, no backing behind it, and no credibility to the 2 people running it, all the way up to a $3 million investment. After this small dig into the duo's past, I realised that we didn't really know much about Zach, despite finding out a lot about Garrison, and the discrepancy between finding out a lot about one person and nothing about the other just kind of left me feeling like there was more to be uncovered. And boy, was I right. With a few more days of discovery and searching, we found out that this wasn't Zach's first Kickstarter. We discovered that he had previously tried to kickstart a Bluetooth speaker project called Core. This ridiculous device is a wearable Bluetooth speaker that appears to be based on some sort of Tony Stark fetish. Now, design and aesthetics aside, could you imagine anything worse than some hipster jogging down the street blasting his shitty house music right at you? Now, in true Zach fashion, this Kickstarter trailer comes with another sob story. This absolute idiot of a man had managed to be hit by a cab not once, but twice.
So I was actually running at NYU, my freshman year of college. And I was running with my earbuds in, and I got hit by taxi cabs twice. And I knew I needed my music a different way.
So now, that leaves this man totaled up with his beautiful girlfriend leaving him and being hit by 2 cabs. Or maybe the same cab twice, who knows at this point, anything's possible. Now, you may be wondering how I know what his ex-girlfriend looks like, and yes, I am going to keep teasing this ex-girlfriend anime arc. Trust me, it's worth the wait. So, how did this speaker funding go? Well, there were 3 separate crowdsourced campaigns, one of which was cancelled and the other 2 saw their backers never receiving their speakers. He even sent a sample to Tom Syndicate, a famous YouTube vlogger, and in one of his vlogs, he actually unboxed the speaker, making this whole thing some sort of fucked up metaverse at this point.
Thank you very much for that. And then, right, so here's
Back to the core.
Yeah, so I believe he said he made this. Whoa! What is this?
What's this? Speaker.
The core. I don't know, is this like is it his startup or something like that? What the heck? Is this gonna make me like Iron Man?
What is it?
I think it's some sort of sexual device, to be fair. Gonna need a minute. Cut. Zach, is this you? Zach, I think that might be you. Okay, so I am assuming, and I'm gonna just go with it, that Zach, this is actually your startup or your company or something like that. So initial feedback, the idea of it's dope. I like it. It's kind of like the Iron Man core thing, especially the fact that you sent this bad boy as well. But my one thing is getting this straight away. I've been fiddling with it without watching a tutorial and only looking at this manual. I've been fiddling with this for like 10 minutes and I still can't figure out
He said there's a video
how,
on the website.
how to put it on. I know that as a thingy, but I know it's like what? Put it on me.
So this strap.
Oh, for God's sake! Oh my God, Alice, you're giving me anxiety.
Strap. The question is.
Mum's going to get involved now. Oh my God, we've done it.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
It only took you
2 seconds.
2 minutes.
At this point, you're probably itching to start the ex-girlfriend anime arc. If you haven't already, crack open the previously mentioned beverage of choice, get the popcorn out, get it ready, because this is some 8K IMAX Hollywood level plot twist. Zach's ex, Eileen, recently had caught wind of all of this taking place, as she herself is a YouTuber and fashion influencer, as we would only come to find out at this point. She had been DM'd by a lot of friends and family asking her if she had seen that Zach, her ex, had been dragging her through the dirt, telling a one-sided story publicly. She hopped in a call with me and explained that she would not only be making a video on the Dreamworld scenario, but also addressing the breakup. And sure enough, 2 days later, the video was released.
All right. Well, welcome. Hello. There's a good chance that most of you who watch this video don't know who I am. So hello, my name is Eileen, known as Smilin' Eileen on the internet. As many of you who know me know, I ended my engagement about 8 months ago. I haven't talked about it on the internet or like publicly in any way for a couple reasons. I mean, one, like it's private. It's private, and it was painful. I also didn't want to like embarrass my ex like that. However, this has happened. And I have now had multiple people reach out to me about it, and as I will soon explain, I am now for some reason involved. Through this investigation of this Dreamworld Kickstarter scandal, as I will call it, it was brought to my attention that he has been utilizing our breakup as a sob story within the main Kickstarter campaign video. Like, as a main point of the Kickstarter campaign. Like, sorry, I literally just found out about this yesterday and I'm still kind of like wrapping my head around it. So I apologize if this video ends up being kind of rambly. Not only is he utilizing our breakup story to leverage his Kickstarter campaign, but he is also presenting a very curated and convenient narrative of the breakup to benefit him. Believe me, it is a story. To understand the nail in the coffin, we must go back to the engagement. Basically, it was this big deal red carpet, my first red carpet ever, and he shows up. Well, I thought he was in New York, and proposes on the red carpet in front of all these cameras, and wow, big, flashy, yeah, it was a surprise, to say the least. So, well, about a month later, I go to get my ring sized and find out that the ring is in fact fake. And I don't mean like moissanite fake, I mean like they literally couldn't resize the ring to fit my finger because it would have entirely melted. I can guarantee that these boys are not trying to scam anyone. They truly believe that they are going to deliver on everything that they have promised. This is not two guys who purposefully came up with a project that they knew they weren't going to be able to do just so that they could get a quick payday from Kickstarter and then disappear with the money. That is absolutely not what is happening here. They really, truly believe that they can make this happen.
After the research into Zach and Garrison, the result of this video and the information that came out was not entirely surprising. Eileen was fully aware of Dreamworld, and Zach had spent 5 entire months before they broke up dragging around assets inside of Unreal Engine 4. So already the lies are starting to pile up. The sob story that the loss of his lovely girlfriend, leading him to have some sort of gigabrain epiphany, and starting the production of the last game you'll ever play. And yes, by the way, that is actually their tagline. Sounds like more of a threat, to be honest. Did not in fact come from the breakup itself. They had been struggling and fumbling to even use the Unreal Engine. In this video and on the phone call, Eileen said something to me that was very thought-provoking. She stated to me that she does not think that either of these guys are trying to actively scam anyone. She says they're both just individuals with their heads in the cloud, and they truly believe that they can do this. And honestly, this was the first time that I'd actually stopped myself to think about this. Is this malice or pure incompetence? And this is the thought that continued to pop into my head from time to time. After this, myself and Eileen became somewhat friends, and we'd chat on a regular basis, but never really about Dreamworld. This is also around the time that people realised that fishy things were starting to happen in the Dreamworld Discord. If anyone so much as mentioned my name, the ban hammer would fly. This would lead to a 5-month-long ban wave in the Discord. They lost roughly 80% of their members purely from bans. Along with this came the discovery that their Discord mod team was made up of, wait for it, 6 children. And no, I am not talking 17 to 18 year olds, I am talking 13 to 17 year olds. These mods were used as human meat shields, quite often having to deal with waves of harassment because of the dodgy nature of this project, along with mostly being exposed to endless screaming at them in VC chats. Because Tweedledee and Tweedledum were too busy hiding in their fort trying to ride out this hate wave. What they didn't know at this point was that 2 of their moderators had been watching my videos, and they had come to the full realization that this was a scam, whether through intention or incompetence. At this point, I basically had a little network of spies on my side, relaying all the ridiculous scenarios to me in real time. The first bit of juicy information that I received is that the first version of Dreamworld, their alpha, would be releasing in just over a week. This surprised me for a number of reasons, because surely there's no way this game could have had any sort of meaningful changes in the 2-week period leading up to this, and it couldn't have been networked for multiplayer, right? As the days counted down to the release of the alpha, I was scrambling to try and get my hands on an access key. My first plan was to try and back anonymously at the lowest tier that would give me one, to gain access and document this absolute catastrophe in real time. To my absolute disappointment, the Kickstarter had already ended, somehow raising $64,000 spread amongst 663 backers. With no way to get my hands on this, I was ready to throw in the towel. That was until one of the child moderators messaged me and said, "Hey, it doesn't even support my operating system. Have my access key instead." And just like that, we're back in the game. I was finally about to see this game in the flesh, and who knows, maybe things would have changed, and maybe my opinions would change. I always try to be as objective as possible whenever I'm looking into something. This goes for the good, the bad, and the ugly. If changes are made, I'm willing to accept that those have been made if they are good changes. Before we continue, I want to introduce you to a new character in this anime arc, Skiazos, one of the original backers of the Dreamworld Kickstarter. Skiazos at this point was one of the only content creators making videos on Dreamworld, positive ones at least. Due to the fact that he had been given a very early access build of the game, Skiazos would upload videos of him building hobbit holes, decorating them, and chopping down trees. He also granted us a greater insight into the team of Dreamworld through a live stream Q&A that lasted nearly an hour and a half. It was streamed on his Twitch and uploaded to YouTube. This livestream also led to another incredible meme, as a lot of the questions that Skiazos asked them, they hadn't got prepared answers for, and most of the questions caught them off guard. The main question being, how do you plan to have millions of players on a single server and network all of this efficiently? And Garrison fumbled away, and his answer ultimately was enums.
Yeah, so the answer is essentially you try and run everything as much as possible on the various clients. You take something like placing a block. You simplify that down to an enum that's actually quite small.
To anyone who's not in the know with game development or an average Joe, this may not seem funny or meme-worthy. But to anyone with development knowledge, this became one of the funniest one-liner jokes of the century. Essentially, enums are a data type in programming and are absolutely not the solution to efficient networking and multiplayer for millions. Like, not even remotely. Tensions and excitement built as the last 2 days of the countdown of this launch passed. Backers were finally going to be able to build in their own plots in the city, ride their epic mounts, show off their limited edition pets, and see their names engraved in the very walls of the Pantheon building, all of which promises that were made to the backers of this disaster. I launched the game, started to run around, and oh boy, where to start? For starters, none of the promised features for backers were present other than the previously mentioned personal housing plots in the city. However, myself and many others logged in to find that we didn't even have a housing plot, just straight up homeless. The next thing to check out, how did they plan to get these millions of players in the same world? My guess, along with many others, was client-side peer-to-peer connections. To explain this, games like World of Warcraft or RuneScape use dedicated servers. Your game tells the server what you're trying to do, then the server does the maths and works out if you're able to use that item or mine that rock. While peer-to-peer connections connect directly between all players, meaning that you can just say, hey, I mined a rock, even though you didn't, and the other player's clients just go, yeah, you did. Here's your ore and XP. Now I'm going to let you guess which one Dreamworld opted for. That's right, peer-to-peer. Meaning you could tell the game that you did anything, and it would just let you do that. Changing your run speed, your mining speed, even the distance at which you can mine. You could even change the amount of inventory items that you had. You could set the stack size to anything. I set it to minus 1.2 billion, which essentially means I now have infinite resources. Because every time I use a resource, it goes down another negative, and it never actually reaches 0, so I never run out. When placing an item in the world, you can set the scale of the item, sort of like you would in a game editor or a game engine. And of course, this also was editable and not checked by the server, meaning you could scale the item up infinitely, just by changing a single number on your hard drive. So I did. We spawned in battle axes the size of cities, stairs that were so big you could just climb up to the main city which otherwise required a portal, and of course this means you could place objects in your building plot right next to someone else's. However, it was so big that it spilled over into the other person's building plot, stopping them from building. That is, of course, if they ever received a building plot in the first place. And to just top it all off, the only visual difference from what they had shown 6 weeks prior to the new release was grass. And even that was buggy as hell. Not to mention that they were even using straight up stolen MP3s for their music tracks that they did not have the license to distribute. Most of these music tracks come under a Creative Commons license that also does not allow you to publish, and after checking with the owners of these music tracks, they did not have that permission. And one of the most baffling things was the presence of these white cubes in the city. These were seemingly placeholders for buildings in the city, but they were also placed inside cliffs and in places where you wouldn't have buildings. It's really strange. This was a placeholder 6 weeks ago, and it's still a placeholder now, despite the fact that they said that they'd be gone by this point. We later came to find out that these were not building plots for buildings to be placed in. These were meant to be player building plots in the main city. Now, imagine a Minecraft server spawn that looks like a nuclear bomb has just gone off in it. That's essentially what this would look like if every player was allowed to build in the city. It's a poor game design choice, and it's a poor visual choice as well. They were also having tremendous FPS issues, so they decided to add a white fog to the game to stop rendering things behind it. This is a typical thing to do in games when you're trying to improve your FPS. However, in true Dreamworld fashion, they cocked this up as well. What they had in fact done was add a giant sphere around the player that follows them around. They then added a transparent texture on it to simulate fog, but what they didn't do was stop items behind it from rendering, therefore nullifying the entire point of making the view distance smaller. What they had now in fact done was added large transparent texture over the screen, which also decreases performance, and then behind that still had everything rendered in the distance. You could still see it. At this point, we've reached peak incompetence. This alpha release didn't only meet people's expectations for the ridiculousness we were going to see, it far exceeded them. Skiazos, the YouTuber that we previously mentioned, had also reached breaking point. The veil had been lifted, and he finally saw Dreamworld for what it was: a steaming pile of shit. The next day, Skiazos released a video called Dreamworld, I Have Finally Come to Reality.
I have been living in a dream world for the past 4 months, and I have finally woken up to reality.
This was thought to be the biggest kick in the teeth for Dreamworld, a video to hopefully lay this giant scam to rest. In this video, Skiazos pointed out all of the red flags that he had ignored because he was hoping that this would turn out to be something good. And he explains how all of these led to this game being the disaster that it is today, a failed Kickstarter.
Let's just go back a little bit here. Let's look at this. Okay, this is a music file from inside their game. You can see the link to the actual site that takes you to this music. Also, look on the top. They also have the Nightmare Before Christmas. Guaranteed they didn't get those rights. Oh wait, let's read this from that company. It says, yeah, I can't find a record of our clients with that name. Their Kickstarter seems to have comments about people who think they are out to scam and get free money. I'll keep an eye out to see if they actually launch a product or not. Okay, they launched one. The alpha. This is what we're expecting. Okay, this is from their Kickstarter. This is what everyone was expecting to see. You ready to see what we actually got to see? This is what we actually see. Look at these buildings. These buildings are pre-assets, just plopped down. Inside the Pantheon, we got these ridiculously large books that are way out of scale, and you can tell because their textures are horrible. They're not made to be this big. So why? Their walls completely blank. There's nothing on them. Inside those buildings that we saw over here, these buildings, this is what's inside of them. Oh man. So here's some interesting stuff. This was posted today. Okay, so they talk about how, you know, it's hard to do rotations because the rotations don't snap the way they want them to. And Wolf says, definitely we have discrete rotation mode for every 22.5 degrees. We're hoping to have them sent out in the next couple of weeks. Here's the funny part about that. It's default in the Unreal Engine. There's a button for it right there. It's already in it. In the editor, it's right there. This was posted on the 12th of March. It says Portal is working on a huge server update so thousands of players can play at once. But it should be invisible to you guys. Thousands, guys, thousands. Where's the millions? Where's the hundreds of thousands? Where's the 10,000s, millions, 100,000s? Where is it? Where's this millions of things? They're thousands.
Having your biggest supporter turn coat on you so early in development really isn't a good sign. And from here on, it only went downhill. After this disastrous alpha release, some of the YouTubers that had started covering this topic, such as myself, Josh Strive Hayes and Kira TV, were contacted by PC Gamer to give a statement on the Dreamworld scenario for an article that they were writing. Zach and Garrison apparently refused to give comment on this article as they were both working 80-hour weeks, which was surprising to say the least. It proved to be completely untrue based on what we were going to see next. The team would continue to go on to release weekly updates without fail, and when I say without fail, I mean they released weekly updates. Most of them were broken as hell and required another fix the next week to fix the previous week's update. At this point, they were basically playing whack-a-mole with a Hydra. They'd smack one bug down and another 3 would pop up. Smack those 3 down, another 9 pop up the next week. The first of these updates being allowing players to build doors on their player-built structures. A seemingly easy task. You make a door that opens 90 degrees and then closes 90 degrees. That's the simplest implementation of a door. However, Dreamworld went the extra mile with this, and the doors, for some reason, rotated in 45-degree increments 360 degrees in a full circle. You'd think something like this would be so hard to fuck up, but not in Dreamworld. So I made a follow-up video. Now at this point they had 5 developers working on the project. 80-hour work weeks times 5 is 400 hours. This update for these doors, and only these doors, took 400 hours, and they didn't work. So I recreated this in this video in under 2 minutes. An entire functioning door, coded from start to finish. After this point, I started to document their weekly updates because it was kind of fascinating. It's the same morbid curiosity that you get while watching ant farms, just watching and wondering how the ant colony is managing to survive despite their environment. The first noteworthy update was the hiring of 2 new developers. They had decided to hire a development studio of 2 called Iron City Studios. When I started to look into these guys, they actually seemed like pretty cool dudes. They had previously made an entire voxel game engine prior to this, and it was actually quite an advanced one. The only downside is the game that they were making in this didn't make it to launch until after Minecraft did. If it had made it to launch before Minecraft, I think this game could have actually been a sort of turning point in indie development. However, unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I got to test their game when they gave me an access key after I reached out to them, and honestly, it's super impressive. These guys know what they're doing, they are talented programmers. Over the next few weeks, we'd see updates that didn't break previous features. I'm pretty sure this can be attributed to the fact that the 2 new developers were working on this. However, something became very apparent at this point. The foundations of this game were so rocky that even 2 very talented developers could not fix this game. It was fundamentally broken. It needed to be fixed from the ground up. And clearly, the Dreamworld team were not going to allow for this, being as they seemed to be in this process of speedrunning development, no matter how shoddy it was. Them hiring 2 incredibly talented developers was the equivalent of putting a V8 engine in Grandma's mobility scooter. It was never going to work. Now, for some of my favourite weekly updates, and these weekly updates came out banger after banger. And each one somehow managed to get worse than the last, to the point that half of these updates were actually security risks. Something that people noticed really early on was that there was no login feature, and it's bizarre that none of us noticed this earlier. Whenever you open Dreamworld, you would just be automatically logged into your character and play. Now, the reason for this is that early on, Dreamworld were using your IP address to associate an account, so as soon as you open the game, you were logged into your account and you could just play. In concept, absolutely great. In practice, as always, awful. This means that if you used a VPN or your IP address changed, you would either log in on a completely fresh character or would not be able to log in at all. This alone is an awful idea, and it can't get any worse than this, right? Wrong. Clearly, the next logical step was to use the network's MAC address to differentiate between accounts. A MAC address is what your internet uses to determine the difference between all of the internet-connected devices on your network, as all of the MAC addresses are unique. This alone is pretty awful from a security point of view. However, we've come to learn that Dreamworld always goes the extra mile. This update came with the addition of players actually having names, and these names were displayed above the player's head or next to their messages in chat. The team had a brilliant idea of using the player's MAC address as their username, displaying it in the previously mentioned chat and above the player's head, therefore displaying a player's MAC address directly to all other players. Well, at least the first half of the MAC address. But it's still a security issue. And with this week's update, you could hear a Mexican wave of developers all around the world face-palming in unison. And the weekly update didn't stop there. The next one was arguably the worst yet. The team had added a selfie feature, an in-game feature where you could press a single button on your keyboard, it would take a screenshot selfie, and it would automatically upload it to their selfie channel in their Discord. This was done using something called a Discord webhook. And again, the developers amongst us are already starting to see where this is going to go wrong. Yes, they packaged the webhook password in plain text in the files, meaning that anybody could upload any image or video to this Discord channel with absolutely nobody knowing who they are, meaning that gore and 18+ imagery could be uploaded to the Discord that is frequently used by children. Now, because technically the account that it was being posted on was owned by Dreamworld and everybody posted through that account with the password, it means nobody could know who actually posted these things. It would always look like the Dreamworld team posted this, because technically they did. Now, when you think this can't get any worse, just hold on, because it can. The team had the gigabrain idea of uploading all of the images with a custom file name. Now, how did they determine the file name? Well, naturally, the team decided to use the file path of the images folder on Windows, which, if you had used your real name for your Windows account, included your full name. Yes, I'm not joking. So with a single press of a single button, every child could dox themselves in the Dreamworld Discord. Why am I not surprised? This was actually so bad that while I was doing my weekly videos, I held off on making a video on this until I had reported it in private to the Dreamworld team for them to fix it ahead of time. I did this for one reason. This is such a severe security breach that I felt it was necessary to hold off on a video until this was fixed, because at the end of the day, this is children that are at risk. This next update was one that I'd been waiting for with pure anticipation. Out of all the ways they've managed to mess up absolutely everything in updates so far, they were going to be adding mounts. And my mind was running wild with the possibilities of how they could mess this one up. And I have to say, they far exceeded my expectations with this. Only 40 seconds after loading the game up, jumping on my mount and riding it, my mount turned into a punching bag piñata, being bounced around the map for 11 minutes straight.
You're not controlling the mount.
Oh,
Absolutely not.
Why is it doing loops?
Oh my.
Like a boom arm on a car. Oh my god, what the
Carl, please.
What's
Please.
going on?
Stop it.
Oh, that's not me. I'm not even touching it.
I'm trying to make a cup of tea, man. Stop it.
Look at his legs in the air. How do I get off? I don't think I can get off unless it's still, and it won't stay still. I had zero control over the mount. This was easily the highlight of my year. I have never laughed so much at something so stupid. After the mount update, it was clear that the team were running out of steam. Probably because of the previously mentioned rocky foundations that this entire shit show was built upon. The team started releasing updates that didn't rely on messing with any previous code. These were standalone features. Probably because if they did mess with any of the existing code, everything would break again. This has happened in the past, and it's going to continue to happen if they continue doing that. So, this next update that I was going to cover is pets. I don't know where to start with this one. This one was just laughable at the least. The player character moves really fast, and because every single pet in the game was a pre-bought asset, well, they had a set movement speed for their animation. Now, to make it keep up with the player, they had to increase the running and walking animation speeds. That's fine, that's done frequently. However, for some reason unknown to God, they decided to also increase the speed of every single animation, including idle animations. Meaning that this pig here, for example, sat there having an asthma attack while not moving. This was basically me on sports day at school. However, this isn't acceptable in a game. It's lazy, it doesn't work, and it just makes you question your entire existence. These updates I've mentioned were just a few of my favourites. Remember, throughout the year they updated every single week, and there were a lot more incredible memes to be found within these updates. But if I covered every single one of them, this video would probably take 4 to 5 hours maybe, and you still wouldn't have everything that you needed. My YouTube channel has a documentation on all of these updates. So that's the condensed story of Dreamworld. A story of two individuals who promised the world and delivered almost nothing. A tale of ex-girlfriends, child moderators, and pure incompetence. And most of all, an incredible story to go along with it. Dreamworld was essentially a checklist of what not to do in game development and Kickstarter. The team are still posting weekly updates to this date, with the most recent one having a patch note, players will no longer be able to fly while sitting in a chair. At this point, it's starting to sound like a cursed patch note for Sims 3, and I'm sure it will go on to give much more comedy as the years pass. Now, on a finishing note, I do believe these guys truly do have a passion to learn game development, but they've gone about it completely the wrong way. I hope that these guys will continue to follow a passion for game development and release a single-player, small-scope game, something that people can potentially enjoy, and before that, prototype and throw away and repeat until they learn something. Everybody's passion starts by not knowing anything about that passion. And you put in time, you put in love, and you end up with something that you can call your own, something that somebody will enjoy. They skipped all of these steps, and that is how we have ended up where we are today. With an absolute mess of a Kickstarter, a bunch of tangled lies, and two people's reputations absolutely ruined for life. As always, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to help me on my journey to 100k subs before the end of the year. And if you want more of these documentary style YouTube videos, please consider joining my Patreon, as these take a lot longer to make. And as always, until next time, take care.